We've got someone with us today who just needs to get a job. Josh Kosh, 2021 in the hangar. Welcome to In the Hangar. I'm Christy Wong.
And I'm Dan Milliken, and we are sponsored by Gold Seal and iFly GPS. And also we're sponsored by Flying Eyes Sunglasses, and in the house today is one of our brand partners, brothers, if you would, Josh Flowers from Aviation101. Josh, you're a regular here. Thanks for coming back.
Come that way, absolutely. Love coming on the show.
Brother Josh, thank you. Welcome.
Brother Josh. So, and in that spirit of just being, a team, we are a team for Flying Eyes. You're on the team as well.
Absolutely.
And I just love the fact that Flying Eyes had a contest to see which of their brand ambassadors could have the most sales in the fourth quarter. Josh, who won that? I'm just curious.
won?
You know who won?
I think it was me.
No, I don't think that's quite right. Yes, in fact, taking off, we beat Aviation 101 in selling Flying Eyes. And in honor of that, here's what I want to do. So if we're going to give away a pair of Flying Eyes sunglasses, and you got to remember the Flying Eyes glasses are those ones that have that incredible bend. You can just about take it all the way there. Super comfortable, no fatigue under the headphones, awesome glasses. So here's the deal. We'll give away a pair of Flying Eyes sunglasses to the comment that we pick about why taking off is a better channel than Aviation 101.
There you go. There'll be plenty of those. That's all right.
So we'll do that, and we'll decide it within 5 days of airing this episode, and we'll talk to you. We'll let you even pick the sunglasses that you want, the style and everything else. So there we go. How about that, Josh?
Sounds good.
I should have you pick the winner.
Maybe
Yeah,
I should do that.
exactly.
Yeah. That way I can thumb through all the critiques and
And find out
it'd be
who you
good
need-
growth for me.
Yeah, and who you need to unsub from your channel.
Yeah.
We call it feedback.
Yes.
There
Feedback.
you go.
We
Feedback. Okay.
All right, so Josh, thanks for coming on. We actually haven't had you on in quite some time, 6 months, which is a long time for us.
Right.
We did catch up with you last summer, but a lot's happened in the pandemic and everything else. So what I want to do is bring us up to speed on what's been happening with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gone through a couple of long trips since then, and these trips kind of consist of I have destinations that I need to get to for business or whatever it may
Business?
be. Yeah,
You don't have a job.
Wait,
business.
yeah, I
Well,
was gonna
that's-
say, I'm very confused
That is,
right now.
that is commonly what it looks like, absolutely. But I do all kinds of things and dabble in contractor work and all this. So I basically just fly around and film my journey to and from and all that kind of stuff. So I had a long trip out to Florida kind of in the spring, stretched out into the summer, and went up the East Coast a little bit, came back to Texas. And then recently, it was actually in the fall, a friend of mine, Arnaldo, we've taken a couple of long trips together before. We went coast to coast in his Skyhawk in 2019. I believe it was 2019. And then we got this idea that he wanted to do it again in his Mooney. So he traded the Skyhawk for a Mooney, and he wanted to do a northern route, coast to coast. So basically from Maine to Washington.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Because before we went Florida to California.
Right.
So we basically spent the fall, or the first part of the fall, doing that. And ever since then, it's basically been catching up on filming content, or in post-production and filming content to button all that stuff up. It's been interesting, though, with the way the world is.
Mooney versus Cessna.
Yeah, I was going to say, which one was faster?
Well, which one was faster? Gee, let me think about that one. The Mooney was about 55 knots faster.
Excellent,
So that,
okay.
that made for a bit of a quicker trip. But in fact, the overall trip was longer because I guess because we were covering so much more ground quickly, we said, well, let's just stop here and stay for a couple of days and stop there. And we kind of got carried away, and
You
it
took more time.
turned into a 3-week
So
thing.
that was my question, actually, was which trip was faster, but it came out wrong. But
Actually,
I'm glad we
the
clarified.
trip in the Skyhawk was actually a shorter trip, but the trip in the Mooney ended up being a little bit longer, though we were moving faster. We took advantage of the high speed and started just stopping places, and would often end up staying places longer than we intended and all that kind of stuff.
awesome. Was there a particular place that just stands out over the others?
I thought that the Wyoming-Montana area, like Yellowstone and all that, was going to be like the apex, the pinnacle of the trip. But it ended up being Oregon and the west coast of Oregon. We spent about 4 days there, And one of my big sponsors, Lightspeed, is based there, and Vans Aircraft is based there. And I know a bunch of people in that area, and we explored that area for 4 or 5 days, much longer than we intended to. But we just did a bunch of filming there, and it ended up being definitely my favorite part of the trip, seeing the West Coast, the Pacific Coast in Oregon.
It is beautiful up there.
It is.
I like the episode you did on this trip, flying into Osh.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of, it was interesting to see that with it just totally empty and nothing there.
Very different, but surprisingly, that airport is super busy, even when AirVenture is not happening. I mean, when I say super busy, obviously it's nothing close to what...
Do they have the dots or?
The dots are still there. They're a little faded, but they're still
Gotcha.
there. But I mean, just airplanes beating up the pattern left and right, and there's still warbirds beating up the pattern and all this kind of stuff. And it was a very busy airport, and the controllers still stay on their toes year round. It was very interesting to see.
So what I'm hearing is that we could probably just go up there, grab a couple of those like camping chairs, and just watch airplanes all day.
You could, I'm sure.
There you go.
Absolutely. And what we did is we stayed on the Hilton on the field, which, of course, during AirVenture, that place is like, I don't even know how much it is, $600 a night, maybe even more. We stayed there for like $80 a night and just parked right there on the ramp, went through the gate, stayed in Oshkosh for a night. It was an interesting experience.
All right, so I'm still stuck on the Mooney versus Cessna. I've never ridden in a Mooney even. As somebody I know that you know the 172 better than most, give me pros and cons of the Mooney.
So the Mooney, it's a very interesting airplane, and people seem to be very opinionated one way or another. Like they either just love the
People
Mooney
are
and it's like a
opinionated?
cult following, or there's the people that just hate Moonies for whatever reason it may be.
The tail's backwards.
Well, the engineers did put the tail on backwards and they never fixed it, but that's we can look past that. It kind of helps the looks of the airplane. But it's a very, I love it because it's a fast and efficient airplane. They're not exactly easy to work on because they're so tight and compact. There's no space in the cowling. There's no space under the panel.
Oh.
They are, a lot of people think they're super narrow. And if you look at the cabin width about at your waist or close up to getting up towards your shoulders, it's about the same as a 172, maybe like a ½ inch to an inch narrower. Don't quote me on that, but I'm just guessing. But the reason it feels so tight inside is because the cabin starts to taper up and it maintains that squatty profile. So that's the main complaint people mostly have is it's a tight cabin. And it definitely is. I will say that reaching around and getting snacks from the back seat on that long trip started to be a challenge, and I noticed that it was a lot harder in that plane over the Skyhawk. Mainly because if I start to, pull my arm up to get in the back seat to grab something, I can't because the ceiling is right there. That's the main complaint people have. But I've got a lot of time in Moonies. Took a couple check rides in a Mooney. I love them. I think they're great airplanes. But they're two different airplanes for different missions if we're talking about a Skyhawk versus a Mooney.
The similar engine to 172, or is it a more powerful engine?
It depends on the Mooney. I think, so the one that I did my commercial and CFI training in a J model, that had an 0360 in it.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It was a 200 horsepower. It was right at 200 horse.
Okay.
The one we've been flying, my friend Arnaldo's, it's a 210 horsepower turbocharged.
Okay, so that's significantly more than...
It's got quite a bit more than a Skyhawk, yeah. So you can definitely feel the power, and of course with the turbo, we were climbing up high and getting up to speed and everything, but it's definitely an airplane that's meant for a different mission. But I love them both. I think they're both great airplanes.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about ever moving out of the 172?
Moving out of, I don't know if I'd word it like that. Getting something in
Getting a
addition
second.
In
to.
addition to, exactly.
I'm very intrigued by the experimental world.
Really? Because I know a while back you and I talked about the 210.
Yeah, we did, and I've looked a lot at that type of airplane and all kinds of stuff. And over time, I keep coming back to the experimental market.
And what like the Vans?
Vans is a great.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so am I, actually.
Are you? Vans is a fantastic airplane. It has its mission. I've been looking at Velocity a lot and other different types of aircraft that are very high speed, fuel efficient, meant for getting somewhere quick. But then I'm also considering useful load and all that kind of stuff. But the experimental market is so flexible, and there's so many options out there. That's why I'm really intrigued by it. But
The
to answer-
Velocity would be cool.
Yeah. I actually recently got to fly one of them in Sebastian, Florida, which is where the factory is. and I went up in their twin, their prototype.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I was very impressed. Very impressive airplane. But yeah, I don't know what it'll be eventually in the future, but I do want to get something else.
He's expanding the Flowers fleet.
That's right.
So
Well, and your dad probably needs the 172 a lot more than you do, right?
Nah, we both use it a lot. We've been flying it every day.
He's probably
for the
been
last couple of
super
weeks.
happy that you've been on the Mooney.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing that us having one airplane between the two of us, whenever I disappear for
3 weeks,
three weeks or something like that with the airplane, I'm like, oh man, I should probably get back to Texas so we can get back to flying the 172, or so he can continue flying it. But
The United States in March of 2020, the world got shut down. Mm-hmm. How has the pandemic affected you, especially since you have no job? How's it affected you through 2020 and what your plans were and what happened?
So I had a lot of plans to do a lot of traveling in 2020, and of course, a lot of that had to get halted. I was going to go to Alaska again and knock out my seaplane rating and all that kind of stuff. That didn't happen because I could have gone to Alaska, no problem, but they had a 14-day quarantine. And it would have just totally, I would have had to spend 2 weeks by myself in a cabin, which doesn't sound terrible in Alaska. But for the time that I was trying to spend there and what I was trying to do, it wasn't worth it. So I scrubbed that trip, had another international trip planned, and we had to scrub that one because the European Union just said, no way. And that was in the vicinity of August.
Oh, wow.
So still, it was just, absolutely not. And as we kind of drifted into the end of summer and kind of the beginning of fall, I started to just say, okay, well, I see people flying around all over the place, and as long as you take precautions and you're cautious about things and just go with the guidelines of the businesses that you're entering and all that kind of stuff, you should be fine. So that's when we came up with the idea to, okay, let's take the Mooney coast to coast, and that was a very interesting experience, seeing how all the different states going from Massachusetts all the way to Oregon through the Midwest and everything, how different all the states are treating everything.
And what was it?
Well, first of all, Massachusetts made a very big deal about us having paperwork. Like we had to fill out all this paperwork about why we're coming into Massachusetts, how long we're going to stay, have proof that we were negative of COVID within the last 72 hours, all that kind of stuff. We got there, not a single soul inquired about any sort of paperwork. Nobody at any of the airports really cared about that. Hotels and everything. Everything was very normal other than the fact that you were just expected to wear a mask in public places and in businesses. As we drifted into the Midwest, the whole situation kind of seemed non-existent.
Oh, really?
In a lot of ways. And then as we kind of drifted further west, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, it started to get a little bit more important. And then Oregon was very strict about a lot of stuff, kind of like Massachusetts was. But it really didn't feel that far off from how it is in Texas. Even when you're on the West Coast in Washington and Seattle, everybody was just kind of like, yeah, wear a mask and, social distance in the line at the grocery store and stuff. That's it. But beyond that, it was pretty shocking how much of a big deal it was not. It was just very easy to travel across the country, especially in the middle of all of that.
Yeah, I've done some traveling for my business for S Films. I actually have a job, but that's what I've noticed is for the most part, and this is recent travel at the near the beginning of 2021. For most people, it's starting to get back to somewhat what it used to be, just wearing masks and keeping distance.
Right.
So, and I don't know now as more and more people, get the shot or herd immunity or whatever, I don't know what's going to happen.
See, I've never been to Sun and Fun, so I'm going to need a guide when I get there.
It's about a fifth or a fourth the size of Oshkosh. Is that about what you'd say? Have you?
I would say that if I'd actually been to either Osh or Sun and Fun.
Oh, you haven't been to either.
I'm the one who hasn't been to any.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
Dan's got a job.
I got a job.
He's
I'm
got-
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
I can't do the fun stuff. I got a job.
I know. I'm so sorry about that. Well, with international borders being kind of finicky, and because I know those events, they get a lot of traffic from international
lot of
visitors.
traffic.
Yeah, they're not going to get
Especially
that.
Oshkosh.
Oh my gosh.
Oshkosh, I mean, people flock from all over the world to come to AirVenture. So I know that's going to be a pretty hard hit, but we'll see. I am planning to go, though.
Yeah, Osh is definitely something I'm planning to be at for sure. But I'm really interested to see what it's going to look like this year.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's gonna be different. I don't think it's gonna be the new norm I think things are going to slowly, drift back to the way they were, but we're still kind of in the wake of everything that just happened and is still happening. So I think it's going to be a weird air venture, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to remind everybody that we have some Flying Eyes sunglasses up for grabs. So Josh will pick the winner from the comment. So 5 days, within 5 days, maybe he will. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what mood I'm in.
We'll see what mood Josh is in. So make sure your comment does something for that. Anyway, win your own pair of Flying Eye sunglasses. We love them.
Right. Why taking off is better than Josh's channel.
Maybe we can make it like this: roast me as best you can.
The best Josh roast wins the glasses.
There we
Maybe
go.
that'd be good.
There we go.
And remember, use the discount code taking off all caps one word. You can use.
Or you can use Aviation 101
Or
all
you
caps
could
one word.
use-
But Aviation 101 is so much longer. Taking
is.
off is
Taking
a lot
off is
shorter, and
shorter
we'll
than
get you
Aviation
the
101.
same discount.
And that's how we know that we win over Josh. But anyway.
Exactly.
But use either one, I guess. And
I'm biting my tongue over here.
Josh, do you, other than Sun and Fun and Oshkosh, do you have any upcoming plans for the channel?
Just filmed a bunch of content, probably content that's going to lead into the summer, which involved going out to Florida, collaborated with a company out there, and did a couple of other things, and then flew up into kind of the Midwest and did some stuff with some companies up that way. So a ton of IFR content and all that kind of stuff coming soon. I read some comments recently that I thought were really valuable, and they kind of got my attention because it's not what I expected, but there were several of them in a row. People were asking for more back to basics, kind of nitty gritty technical stuff in the Skyhawk, which we're kind of branching out, doing stuff in the Mooney, flying IFR, making it cinematic, which people love, and they're loving it in the comments. But I thought those comments were really interesting, so that's kind of what I'm gonna try to tackle with this new content. But beyond that, that content's gonna start coming out in the spring, a little bit later in the spring, and then I'm going to plan some more travel stuff around Oshkosh and Sun and Fun for the rest of the year.
Well, it's always a pleasure having you. We really appreciate
happy to
you
do it.
showing up and flying all the way up here.
Yes.
In the Skyhawk, right?
All the way. This
All
is actually
the
the
way.
first time I've flown up here to do
That's
this. I've
right.
driven
That's
every
right.
time.
That's
driven every
right,
time.
because of the weather or
Yeah,
whatever.
Weather. The first time I had an electrical failure and
Yeah, I
the gear
remember
wouldn't come
that.
down, and so I had to turn around and go
That's
back. And
right.
then all the other times there's been either an airplane issue or weather issue.
Wonderful. All right, you guys. Well, remember, don't forget to put your comments below, #RoastJosh.
That's it.
Like, subscribe, share. You can even go over to Josh's channel if you so choose.
Wow. I appreciate that.
he doesn't need help. We
That
need
means a
help.
lot coming from you.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next time.
In the hangar.